How's it going, Charger fans? Welcome back to another injury update with me, Jamieson. Pleasure to see you guys again. I just wanted to do a quick offseason update. A lot of changes are coming the Chargers' way. New head coach, new GM, and injuries are going to be something that they will have to discuss. These have real impacts on the players, real impacts on the team, and there's going to be a lot of decision making, of which salary cap, etc. There's a ton of things that'll go into that, but injuries are a big thing. So I wanted to talk about some of the injury updates that we got after the players debriefing on Monday. They unpacked the locker rooms, kind of closed out the official season, and we did get some more injury updates. So without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start with Corey Linsley. We got some more updates on his heart condition, and he gave us kind of a really rundown of what the season was like for him. So we'll go over that. We'll talk about Mike Williams' ACL recovery, what that might look like for the summer and into next season. Justin Herbert's finger update. He talked a little bit about where he's at as well. And there's a couple other injury things that we'll talk about to key players that might or might not be playing for the Chargers next year. But these will all be important parts of the decision-making process as well. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about Corey Linsley, because this, I think, was the most significant news that we got out of that day. Let's start with the cat out of the bag. He did say there's a 99% chance that he will retire. And with that, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you, Corey, for all you've done for the team, all the work that you do outside of the field as well. His work with special advocates and all the things that him and his family do. I think it's really impressive. It's, I'm sure, making a lot of difference. So aside from football, I'm sure he will go on to do many great things. But he also gave us a little bit of updates on kind of what his journey was this season. So he did talk about that he had an ablation for a hereditary arrhythmia or an arrhythmia that he knew something about. So let's talk about the heart real quick. It's obviously very important. It is more or less easiest to think about it. It's just a pump. So blood is important and carries all of our nutrients, and it also gets rid of all of our wastes, but it needs to get all around the body. The heart makes that happen. So you have 4 chambers. Obviously, the top 2 and the bottom 2 work in tandem to kind of pump blood, around the heart, either into the ventricles and from the ventricles to the body and also to the lungs and things like that. So it obviously takes a lot of coordination to do that well. And if the pump's not working in coordination, you can get symptoms. Obviously, an athlete tends to notice them before other people, because they can notice little changes in their performance and things like that. And there's a lot of electrical circuits in the heart that, again, and there could potentially be a little aberration. So he did what would call an ablation, which is where you stick a catheter, usually inside one of the blood vessels. You go into the heart and you actually burn or zap a little area of this conduction system that is causing bad conduction. So either it can be an area that's doing bad, like fake signals, or it could be a bad circuit that's like causing the electrical currents to run around the heart. Again, this is not my area of expertise, but these are kind of the high level thinking about it. When you burn that area, you interrupt the circuit and you let the natural circuit dominate, and the heart's beating efficiently. So we had that procedure done over the season. Relatively minor, could be for any number of conditions. We don't exactly know what it is, but let's just say it's something like atrial fibrillation or something along those lines. He said that his recovery was fine. He went back and played, but he always felt a little bit off. And had further investigations, we don't know exactly what those were, either tests or imaging, that diagnosed another heart condition that was a little bit more serious. It sounds like it is related to strain. So when he is working out in the NFL, lifting heavy weights, that obviously puts a lot of work and pressure on your heart, because you're flexing all of your muscles and the pressure goes up, and your heart needs to beat more efficiently and harder in order to pump to that part of the body. And it sounds like that was the dangerous aspect that his doctors decided, and he decided would be too dangerous for him to continue playing this season. And it sounds like it's not something that is treatable necessarily, not something that they can easily cure. But aside from the fact of football, he's able to do everything else that he wants to do: run, swim, hike, just nothing like high strain. So that's the good news. The sad news is that this will unfortunately probably be his last time playing for the Chargers, last playing in the NFL. But it sounds like he will be able to do whatever he wants to do after this, make sure that he takes care of himself and his family. So I wish him all the best in his future endeavors. We also heard from Mike Williams. Just a little recap of this. He suffered this ACL injury in week 3. The traditional timetable on ACL injuries is they usually put the the 9 to 12 month moniker on that. We saw Jalen Guyton suffer an ACL injury early on in the season. I believe it was week 4 of the 2022 season. And he wasn't quite ready for the start of the season. I think he came back around week 5 or 6. So again, everyone's a little different. He's quote unquote ahead of schedule. He's 3 months out. So by this point in his ACL recovery, he's likely moving in a straight line quite well. He's, no restrictions in terms of his movement. He's probably not running quite yet, but we're focused on strengthening his quad, returning his leg to the strength of equal to his unaffected leg, so that he can really engage in his rehab and start working on more aggressive movements and like things like that. So ahead of schedule perhaps means that he's going to be closer to the 9-month thing. It's really too early to say. But I do expect that he will hopefully participate in training camp in some fashion, and hopefully be available by week 1, or be available by week 1 to someone for the team. I think his contract's a little bit harder to get out of for the Chargers. Not my area of expertise again, so I won't comment too much out of that. But I do expect him to be a weapon for the team, and a weapon that will return. Again, ACL injuries were once upon a time career-ending injuries. Not so much anymore. We have seen players come back and perform at high levels after these injuries as well. So we'll have to see exactly what path Mike Williams takes in his recovery process, but I do think he'll be good to go, if not by training camp very early on into the season. And lastly, Justin Herbert had that finger surgery back in early December. We're about more or less a month away from that surgery now. He says the finger feels great. He has, I believe, an appointment coming up for a checkup. When I made this original video, I had said about 6 to 8 weeks. He said in his interview that he was hoping to throw the ball within the next month or so, which again would put him square in that 6 to 8 week time frame for full recovery. So it sounds like the surgery went well. The finger is healing well. Again, that's just what they'll make sure with that next checkup appointment. And if that all goes to plan, it should be a pretty normal offseason for Justin Herbert. He said no other lingering injuries. The left finger is doing okay. So hopefully his fingers will be well protected moving forward. But should be a very normal offseason for Justin, preparing for with the new coach and the new GM and things like that. So again, not worried about performance, and he'll be able to even participate in all offseason activities, unlike someone like Mike, who might need a little bit more time. And then the last two, I think, key injuries, Keenan out and Joey were both out the last, I believe, 4 games. But they both were in practice. Joey came back from IR, was on his activation window was open. Keenan also said himself that, if it was a playoff game, he probably could have played through, but no sense in risking things in these games when there wasn't a whole lot on the line. So for Keenan specifically, just an incredible season. I don't think there's any concern that this is a lingering injury. He was ready to come back. So, and he, despite being in his 30s now, had a very resilient season. Was the only receiver really to really stick it through to the end, or nearly the end, and just had an incredible season, showing that he's still got it even in his 30s. So when it comes to the Chargers, he has had injuries in the past, but this last season, relatively clean wise, and this isn't like a heel injury, not like a hamstring injury, not like other things that might be a little bit more lingering. I'm sure, give him another month or so and he'll probably be good to go. They all deserve a break after 18 tough weeks of football. So I'm not really worried about him. Joey's foot injury, he was also coming back, so likely he's fine. He does have a history of injuries as well, of varying severities. He said the healthiest he's ever been coming into the season after he had his groin surgeries. He said he felt like a new player. This foot injury was kind of a freak accident where he placed his foot in such a way and had this foot injury. We don't exactly know what it is, but it is likely fine or on its way to fine. If otherwise, it would not have activated his practice window for return. So again, more decisions need to be made. Khalil Mack obviously had an incredible season, but with 2 edge rushers on large contracts, the numbers are hard to make work. So something that the Chargers will have to discuss in the offseason. And that's all I got. Obviously, it's been an unfortunate season overall. Lots of injuries were part of that, as they are in the NFL. So I appreciate you all sticking with me and listening as I've discussed them throughout the year. It's always a pleasure to make these videos and interact with the community. Hopefully my services are less and less required in the future. But I think all that being said, it's an exciting time for the organization. It was a tough year, but there's new leadership on both the head coach front and the GM front. We have Justin Herbert under center. We have a lot of younger building blocks as well. We got draft capital. There's a lot of potential. And so let's hold on to that as we think about the draft and engage with content over the next couple months. So you might hear from me from time to time over the offseason. Obviously, there's less need for injury analysis in that time point. But if there's anything relevant to draft picks or questions come up, I'll be working with the rest of the squad at Guilty as Charged to discuss those and get you guys as much information as possible. So again, thank you guys for engaging all throughout the season, and we'll hope to see you soon. Bolt up.